Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Ambassadorial Wing and another installment of Afternoons with the Ambassador. And of course, I am your host, the Ambassador, and hope that you're all having a great Sunday afternoon. And glad to be back with you all once again. And today, we're going to be wrapping up our review series on the Matrix. Well, at least for now. And today we're going to be doing a breakdown discussion of the final installment. Well, the third installment, let's put it that way, in the Matrix series with Matrix Revolutions. And as always, if this is your first visit to the Ambassadorial Wing, thank you for being here today. I hope you enjoy your visit. Hope you enjoy the discussion and the review and everything. And by all means, if you have not done so, make sure you smash that like button and share this stream out with your friends if they are fans of the Matrix franchise. And over the last week or so, we've gone through. Hang on one second. Sorry about that. Cats. You gotta love them, even if they drive you nuts. But yeah, as I was saying, if this is your first time to the Ambassador Wing, thank you for being here today. And and today we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be concluding our review series on the Matrix, the original three films, anyway, and share my thoughts with you all on Matrix Revolutions, what I thought about it, what I gained from it, and everything, and what I enjoyed about it. So, and want to say a shout out to the chat, my good friend, fellow council member on the Council of Ones, Mountains of Elysium. Good to see you, bud, and hope you're having a good. Hope you're having a good evening over in your neck of the woods. So, but appreciate you stopping by. I know you've been busy. Know you got a lot on your plate, and but appreciate your support as always. So, um, make sure you catch. Hope you catch us on the replay. If you do, hope make sure you let me know what you think. So, but yeah, Matrix Revolutions. This is obviously the third installment in the franchise, and they left it on kind of a cliffhanger with Matrix Reloaded. We see Neo in a coma-like state, and right across from him, his counterpart, the non-Hugo Weaving-looking Agent Smith. And we pick up they pretty much pick up where they left off with Matrix Reloaded with Revelations. Excuse me, Revolutions comes out next month. And I have to say, this I remember going to see this in theaters with Mother Ambassador when it came out several years ago. I think it was around 2002 or 2003. You know what? Let's do just a little bit of digging here real quick, and I can give y'all an accurate date. Because even my memory isn't what it should be all the time. 2003. Okay, I wasn't far off. Cool. But, speaking as someone who enjoyed the first two installments, enjoyed the Animatrix, what they did with this third installment is this was pretty much it was kind of a straightforward, pure action film. Didn't have a lot of the philosophical discussion in it that the previous two installments did. There was some, but it was somewhat isolated from it being kind of a continuous thread throughout the first Matrix film and, of course, Matrix Reloaded. And I know there have been some people out there who said this was the weakest part of the series. Myself, I didn't necessarily see it that way. I can understand where some other people might. And, as always, here on the Ambassador Wing, if you have a differing opinion, as several of my other fellow streamers will have to say, my fellow YouTubers will say, differing opinions are welcome. If you don't see something the way I see it, that's not going to hurt my feelings. But with Revolutions, what they did was they tried to wrap up Neo's story, at least for the time being, and they wrapped up several other plot lines with Revelations. And I have to admit, I think they did a fairly competent job with Revelations, because here is the fact of the matter: when you've got a lot of intricate plot lines in terms of the war between humans and machines, when you've got the matter of Neo's function within the Matrix and what he ultimately will have to do in terms of it, when you've got his relationship with Agent Smith, his relationship with the Oracle, and then you have this young, child looking program in terms of Santi. And I will get into her a little bit here shortly because I have some theories about certain characters that we saw in the Matrix Resurrections trailer. And well, you know what? We'll just go into it right here. Why wait? With the character of Santi that we meet at the beginning of the film with her mother and father there in the train station where we find Neo after his um, him destroying those sentinels in the real world. He wakes up to this innocent young girl's face, and he's like, "Hello, who are you?" And she's like, "I am Santi." And I I have a theory, and I won't diverge from the main topic of the stream. I want to, most of you know me who've watched my content. No, I don't. I try to stay on target. But I have a theory that the one young woman that we see that has blue hair in the Matrix Resurrection trailers, I have a feeling that might be a grown up Santi. Just a theory. I might be entirely wrong. They might be a completely different character. But the thing that I found interesting is the fact that programs procreate with the Ramachandra and his wife Kamala. The concept of artificial intelligence programs creating new programs is somewhat intriguing. I mean, they treat her like a child. She has the appearance of a child for all intents and purposes. They have their own functions within the machine world. The father is a oh, for heaven's sakes, I know he does something. It has something to do with some sort of power reclamation system, and the mother, the wife, she is another type of program. And I have to admit, what the Wachowskis were trying to say in terms of how we regard different forms of life. And I think this is a common theme throughout the entire Matrix series. We understand that organic life, we procreate in a particular way, obviously. But the idea of artificial intelligence programs procreating was something I had never really considered before. It was something that was, I won't lie, rather intriguing to me. I rewatched this. I rewatched Revelations the other day, and I was like, "How did I miss this? How did I miss the fact that two programs, for lack of a better term, procreated? They created another program because one, they love each other, and two, they wanted to do this. But the other fact of the matter is they speak of the concept of love, which is as Neo says to Rama, a human emotion. Now, something we had discussed, or I had discussed with Sci-Fi Nation in our previous streams, was the fact that the artificial intelligence that is presented in the Matrix series evolves in such a way that it starts to display what we could understand as human emotion, particularly in terms of fear, and anger and marginalization, neglect. But here in Revelations, we see a different dynamic at play. Now, you could say to a varying degree, one degree or another, that the Merovingian and Persephone, or at least in Persephone's part, she does have feelings for the Merovingian. She remembers a time when he was much different than he is presented now. But this whole concept of artificial intelligence taking on the appearance or the outright, I'm not sure what word I want to use here, not the facsimile, but a genuine, authentic expression of human emotion. And when Rama says to Neo, I consider my daughter to be the most beautiful thing I ever seen. I love her. But in our world, that is not enough. Every program that is created must serve a purpose. And unfortunately, because of the nature of the machine world, she would be deleted. She would be destroyed because she doesn't serve a purpose. These two programs came together. They formed a relationship. They got married. They regard themselves as spouse, husband, and wife. And they created a life. That to us as human beings seems somewhat implausible. But I think it very much speaks to what the Wachowskis were trying to say, their own commentary on how we perceive other forms of life and how we should treat those other forms of life, and even how we should treat one another, especially. Because unfortunately, for us as human beings, we can sometimes become very cold and very callous and almost shut off from our human emotions. And that is a very I don't like the concept of us as human beings becoming so emotionally closed off that we forget what it means to be human. That is a type of world I don't want to live in. And I think with Revelations, with Matrix Revelations, what they were doing was peeling back the layers of this world even further. I mean, the fact that for so many decades upon end, however long it's been since the Matrix had been constructed and humans had been plugged in and turned into a power source by the machines. But here we have a conversation. And well, granted, we've had many instances where programs will be non hostile and actually rather warm and congenial towards humans that are plugged into the Matrix who are unplugged from the Matrix but are plugged back into it, who act independently of the Matrix. And Rama says to Neo, I can see that you are in love. And what would you do to keep that connection? And Neo says, I would do anything to save that connection because he loves Trinity. And he would do anything. He quite literally brought her back from the dead at the end of Reloaded. That's how much he loves her, and he had the power to do so. He could take the bullet out of her body, and then he quite literally resuscitated her. Now, I know there are some people who say that Neo is kind of an analog or a metaphor for the whole concept of Christ. I cannot say I disagree with that. Now, granted, the whole concept of Christ saving one life, yeah, in Scripture we do see this. But I don't think Neo is specifically a one-to-one parallel for the person of Jesus Christ. But I think he is a metaphor for it, or he's a metaphor for the whole Messiah concept that exists in our culture. And because even the Merovingian very deliberately and very purposefully refers to Neo as their savior or Messiah, if you prefer. And Speaking as a person of faith, speaking as a Christian, let's call it for what it is. This was a reference that was not lost on me. I felt what the Wachowskis were trying to say in terms of both their whole commentary on the Messiah construct, and that's what it is, because it is something that has existed in fiction for a very long time. Now, whether you regard the Bible as a work of fiction or a work of fact or a something unto itself, which I do regard as something unto itself, the Bible, the Holy Bible, is to me is a sacred work, much like the Torah would be to a Jewish person, or the Quran would be to a person who is an adherent to Islam. For me, the Bible is something wholly other to itself. But the concept of having a Messiah or a Savior or a chosen one or whatever the case may be in works of fiction is not something terribly uncommon. I mean, we see it in the Star Wars prequel series of movies with Anakin Skywalker. Here we see it with Thomas Anderson, aka Neo. I mean, if you remember in the first movie, the one guy that comes to Neo's apartment says, "Hallelujah, you're my savior, my own personal Jesus Christ." A bit on the nose. I thought the joke was funny, personally. But if you look at the links that they build from there in the next two movies that reference back to the first Matrix movie, it makes perfect sense. It kind of builds on that whole narrative of Neo being this unknowing Messiah. And to kind of get back to my previous point, when Rama says to Neo, "I see that you are in love," that itself is a very powerful statement, because the program, Namas Ramakandra, can read Neo's physical state. He can read, just like the architect could read Neo, just like the Merovingian and Persephone and the Oracle could read Morpheus and Trinity and Neo and all the other characters that they interacted with during the course of these movies. But the fact that a artificial intelligence program understands, at least in their own way, the concept of love, a human emotion, it's a cool concept. And if you think about it, a lot of what is done throughout the course of the Matrix films is predicated on this concept of connection, of understanding one's place in the world and your connection to others. Because think about it, the humans that were plugged into the Matrix have been isolated for the most part from actual human contact the majority of their lives, for however long they have been plugged into the Matrix. And this is something I didn't get really a chance to comment on the other night with my Matrix Reloaded discussion. I know some people did not particularly care for the whole mosh pit scene, much less the love scene between Morpheus, not Morpheus, but Neo and Trinity. But I've gone back and I've rewatched that scene, and I had to consider the context of that scene. Now, some people would say, well, it was just them bumping uglies, nothing more. And the same thing for the whole mosh pit scene and everything, we'll put it that way, after Morpheus's speech and everything. But look at it in this context. Neo and Trinity, for the longest time, particularly Neo, have been plugged into the Matrix. Same is true for Trinity. They did not have human contact, have human connection for who knows how many years. And considering the situation they were getting ready to go into, a very dangerous situation, a very lethal situation, how I think it fits the narrative of what they were trying to do with these films, and particularly with that scene. For all they know, Neo and Trinity might die in the next several days, and they may not know when they may have another chance to be together. So they're going to take every possible opportunity to be with one another in the most intimate possible way that they can be. And shout to the chat, brightest day, good afternoon, good to see you. And Lewis Cox, Lewis, it's good to see you again, man. I appreciate you being here. Hey, Ambassador Rowling, I like all the Matrix movies. One question: are we in the Matrix? I tend to say that no, that we are not, but then again, how would I know? Yeah, Lewis. That was something that was a running joke in the early 2000s around the time that the Matrix films came out. And yeah, I there's a for those of you that are Star Trek Next Generation fans, there is actually an episode that kind of does relate to the whole concept of the Matrix. And it has to deal with Lieutenant Barclay and Professor Moriarty, played by Daniel Lewis. And towards the end of the episode, they figure out a way to give Moriarty his freedom, to get him out of the holodeck. But there's this very kind of tongue-in-cheek joke by Lieutenant Barclay, and he sets the miniature holodeck on a table, and then he looks up and says, "In simulation," almost like he expects for everything to switch off and end. And you know, the other thing that the Matrix movies makes us consider: how do we regard reality around us? How do we function from day to day without any real knowledge that the world we live in could potentially be a simulation? Well, if it is, unplug me and get me the hell out of here. But, the thing for me with the whole Matrix, with the entire series of Matrix films and the Animatrix, you can look at these films, in particular Matrix Revelations, and say, well, it's just a dumb action movie with people dressed up in outlandish costumes doing a bunch of all sorts of overtop kung fu and gunplay and all this other stuff. Myself, I say there's more to it. And we've discussed that over the last several nights and now today. And I think with Revelations, what the movie does, as I mentioned, it it makes us realize that there may come a point in our history where we may construct artificial intelligence of the same caliber that is constructed in the Matrix movies. And I'd say most definitely this is a cautionary tale for how we treat that artificial intelligence, how we treat that product of our intellect, and how we should regard it should it reach a point where it does start to exhibit human emotion. We should not dismiss it. We should be very receptive of it. And of course, you have the whole dynamic of Neo and Smith and their relationship to one another. Because in Reloaded, Smith says to Neo, I killed you. I watched you die, and then you came back and destroyed me. And now Smith has evolved into something different. And Neo realizes that Smith is not just a threat to humanity, he is potentially a threat to the machines. And when Neo goes to the machine city and is staying there before that, I guess I'm not exactly sure how the one machine that has the humanoid face. It says that the program Smith has grown beyond you, and the machine says, "We don't need you. We need nothing." That is a very human and a very visceral response. That is machines denying aid or assistance from a human, when in fact they do realize the machines do come to realize they do need us. They do need Neo. And Neo uses that opportunity to make a bargain. And the machine says, "What do you want?" And Neo says it very simply: "We want peace. Those that wish to be released from the Matrix should be allowed to be released." But we're tired of war. We're tired of conflict. We're tired of constantly being hounded. And the machine says, "Very well. But what if you fail?" And Neo's like, "I won't fail." Almost like he knows how this is all going to turn out. And obviously, he's willing to lay down his life to see this through, because the woman that he loves is now dead as well. Because in the course of them making their journey to the Machine City, Trinity dies. And it's beyond Neo's power at this point to save her. But she's made peace with that fact. She was like, "You brought me back once, and we've had our time. But now you need to do this, and you need to let me go." And I will be interested to see just exactly how the relationship between Neo and Trinity plays out in Resurrections. Because obviously they both die. Neo sacrifices his life to destroy the Smith virus. He sacrifices himself for everyone else. When the machines have breached Zion, breached its defenses, and the remaining humans are cornered in the temple, and Neo makes his intervention upon their behalf. And the Sentinels are just sitting idle, waiting for what's going to happen next. And Morpheus walks out amongst the Sentinels and says, "Neo fights for us now." And that's true. And you have this very over the top, very anime esque, very, I would say, Dragon Ball Z esque final conflict between Neo and Smith. And I have to admit, I could not help but see the similarities in what they did in that fight between Neo and Smith with some of the fights in Dragon Ball Z. I mean, obviously, the Wachowskis were influenced and inspired by Japanese anime when they did these films. They said it quite literally. They wanted to make live action anime, but they wanted to do something completely different. And I think they achieved that. And yeah, Liz Cox. Yeah, I mentioned this last night, and I mentioned it on during my stream when I went to see Ghostbusters Afterlife. They had the trailer for The Matrix Resurrections. And I keep I'm we might do a little bit of a deep dive here and everything. I do want to cover Revelations, obviously. That's why I'm here this afternoon. But I can't help but not talk about Resurrections and not without talking about Revelations, because they are inexorably intertwined into one another. Granted, it's been, let's see, well, like I said, 2003 was when Revelations came out. 10 years would be 2013. Well, 18 years. It's been roughly 18 years since the last Matrix film came out. And they got the cast back except for Morpheus. Yeah. Well, Lewis, I don't know. I can't remember if you were here at the beginning of my stream last night when I was talking about Afterlife. Just to give you a short little synopsis, it was good. It was very, very good. I would say it was worth the wait, the delay due to COVID and everything. For me, it was worth the wait. As I said, I laughed, I cried, I ugly cried. The whole shooting match, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Um, I will encourage you, Lewis, if you're able to, whenever it becomes available, or if you're able to get out to a theater, if you are a fan of Ghostbusters, if you like the first two films, go check out Afterlife. You, I say this, and I might be wrong. You might have a different experience than me, but I don't think you'll be disappointed. I really don't. I don't think you'll be necessarily disappointed with Ghostbusters Afterlife. But getting back on topic here, with what we see thus far from the Matrix Resurrections trailer, obviously Neo and Trinity and Morpheus, or a version of Morpheus, is back. At least we assume that it's Morpheus. And at the end of Revelations, when Santi and Sarah find the Oracle after the Oracle has her conversation with the architect, and I think it's Seraph that says to her, or Santi says it to her, "Do we?" You're welcome, Lewis. Absolutely, my pleasure. And hey, if you want to check out my review, it's up here on the channel. So I did the review at the beginning of my last night's stream. So I might download it and break that stream up a little bit, just so if people just want to hear my thoughts on Ghostbusters, and then just put the rest of it in another video or whatever, I might do that. I've seen other channels do that. Some of my friends have done that with their live streams and what have you, and I might do the same thing. I had done it periodically from time to time, and I might do it with last night's stream too. But yeah, what I think they're trying to do with Revelations or Resurrections is they're fulfilling something that the Oracle says to Santi and Seraph. She says, "I bet we'll see him again someday. We'll see Neo again." Now, we don't know if the Oracle will make an appearance in this film. We don't know if she'll have a different appearance, because obviously the actress who played the Oracle in Revelations is going to be much older. As I mentioned before, the young girl Santi. I have a theory. Now, again, it's just a theory, so take this for what it will. But I think that the one woman that we see, the young woman with the blue hair, who says to Neo, "If you want to know what's going on, you're going to have to follow me," and she has the white rabbit tattoo on her arm. I think that might be a grown-up Santi. Now, I could be wrong, but it would make sense, because if programs grow up, for lack of a better term, then this young woman, this programmer, whoever she is, would be the right age to be a grown-up Santi. And I like the fact that the two programs that created her leave her with the Oracle, and because the Oracle is grooming her as her successor, I think, because I think even the Oracle realizes that eventually she's going to have to go back to the source, to the machine city or whatever it is at some point, and she's not going to be able to stick around forever. And she wants somebody to take up her role because I think she knows deep down that something's going to go wrong with the truce between humans and the machines. Now, we don't know exactly what does go wrong. Obviously, we'll find out in Resurrections. But evidently, something has gone wrong with the truce, or maybe nothing's gone wrong with the truce. We don't know. At this point, it's all supposition, it's all conjecture, and it's all theory, and that's not something I really. That's something I don't necessarily delve a lot into with. For those of you who follow me, I don't do that sort of thing on my channel. I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with it, but it's just not how I function. So, yeah, Liz Cox. Matrix Revolutions is 18 years old. I was 13 in 2003. Lord, I feel old. Lewis, I don't want to hear it. I'm 43. I'm the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Plus one. So, I'm kidding, of course, Lewis. Don't take it personally. But, you know, in terms of what they did with Revelations, they they have further built out the world, and they left room for themselves at the end of this of Revelations to continue this story. Now, whether they the entire plan was to wait 18 years or however long they were going to end up waiting to continue the story, I'm just interested to see what they do. Elysium, now you be nice. You be nice to Lewis. Not cool. I'm kidding, of course. It's fine. But honestly, one of the other things I wanted to discuss with Revelations is Smith. Agent Smith has very much evolved since the first time we saw him in the first Matrix film in 1999. And I have to admit, Hugo Weaving's performance, I think, was actually consistently good throughout all three films. Now, again, we don't know. I would wager probably we will not see him merge in the movie that comes out next month. I imagine Neo did purge the Smith virus or the Smith program. It's gone. So the question becomes, what's going to be the next threat, so to speak? Because what they did with the relationship between Smith and Neo, and this is something that was built in the first movie. This was the first link in the chain of their relationship, or their we'll use that term. That's a good enough term. With one another. And when Neo destroys him and he comes back altered, and then we realize that what Smith is seeking to do is to fulfill his own purpose. And that is by co-opting and copying himself onto other programs to the point where there is nothing but him that remains in the Matrix. And we see the Oracle copied Smith is the one that fights Neo, because the Oracle is an exceedingly powerful program. We can gather from this that he now has the abilities that Neo does. He can fly. He can alter the world around him the same way that Neo can. And yet, at the conclusion of that fight, we hear a line of dialogue spoken by the Oracle, spoken by Smith. When Neo's lying there in that pit, and Smith says, Everything that has a beginning has an end to Neo." And that is the first time that Smith, at least as far as I can recall, addresses Neo that way, because in the real world, the Smith that is inside the character Bane addresses him as Mr. Anderson, not Neo. And I think that was the Oracle speaking through Smith, even though Smith doesn't realize it, because he almost is like, What did I say? That makes no sense. It's almost like the Oracle is too powerful of a program for Smith to have completely overridden. There's still a part of her that's still running. And then, of course, Neo allows himself to be copied and overridden by Smith. But again, due to Neo's nature, his power set, his ability to rewrite the Matrix whenever way he sees fit, he's able to access that power. Granted, it costs him his life, to utterly destroy Smith. Every Smith that is in the Matrix. Every copy, gone, erased, no more. And it is it's a very interesting commentary on how humanity may have someday evolve. Because if you consider what Neo is, removing the whole Messiah construct from his character, he is a commentary on human evolution itself. The fact that someday we may achieve the power and the ability to remake the world around us through sheer force of will. And this is something that myself and Mountains of Elysium and the rest of us on the Council of Ones have discussed in the context of the Babylon 5 series, where we see at one point in the series in season 1 a character that has exceedingly powerful telepathic and telekinetic abilities evolve beyond the need for a physical form, a corporeal body. And we see at the end of season 4 that humanity has achieved the evolutionary state of being non-corporeal beings, just like the Vorlons or Lorien. And to me, it's what Revelations does, and I think does relatively well, is it gives commentary on the constructs of human emotion and how we regard human emotion in something other than a human being. It gives us the opportunity to consider how humanity may one day evolve. We may all day have the power of the one, if you believe in such a thing as evolution. I subscribe to a somewhat different um, theory on the whole theory of evolution. Do I believe there is some truth to the theory of evolution? Yes, I do. But I do believe that I do believe that creation and humanity sprouted from a higher intelligence, but also a holy intelligence, that being God. And I know there's been a lot of commentary on the whole. Well, is Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 literal or metaphorical in how exactly life was created? I regard it as metaphorical. The Bible is not a book of science. The Bible is a book of religious belief. And thankfully, due to my opportunity to go to seminary, I've had the opportunity to discuss and explore the richness of those texts. And do I believe a day will come when we ourselves will evolve to perhaps a state that Neo achieves in our own life, in real life? I would say it would be rather foolish to consider it impossible. But I also do believe that all of creation and humanity sprouts from something other than ourselves. I do believe that the theory of evolution does have merit, but I don't think it explains everything. So and I'll bring up your comment here, Elysium. 1 second. Evolution is how the plan of God is directed because that's how he created the world. One replaces another to give their own space to be. Yeah, very true. Well, and there is truth in a lot of what Smith has to say throughout these films. And he questions Neo during their battle. And he asks, "What do you think you're fighting for? For peace, for hope, for something as foolish as love?" But here's the thing. Smith is somewhat of an evolutionary dead end in terms of the machines of the artificial intelligences that exist in the Matrix. He has achieved power, but he is no more wiser. He has achieved yeah, Elysium. I have to agree with you on that one. I don't think I'd want to come face to face with the T Rex either. Any more so that I want to come to face with a being like Agent Smith. But here's the interesting thing with Agent Smith. While the majority of the programs or the artificial intelligences that we meet throughout the Matrix films are seem to have evolved and grown and become more than what they were originally. Even though Smith, as I started to say, has achieved a great deal of power at his fingertips, he is no more wiser. So the connection between power and knowledge and wisdom do not always link up. I mean, okay, I'll give y'all another comparison here. Consider Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader. Anakin achieved or could have potentially achieved a great amount of power through the Force, through his connection to the Force. But unfortunately, due to his emotions and his need for connection and his fear of losing other people, it stunted him, and ultimately it was his downfall. And even though Vader was exceedingly powerful, he was limited because he let his emotions get the best of him. I would say that there are some similarities here with Agent Smith. He became disconnected from the Matrix, but he didn't allow himself to evolve, to grow. He just took this new ability to copy himself and he started making copy after copy after copy after copy of himself. But every copy was pretty much the same. Same mindset, same mentality, same everything essentially. Different personalities, yes, most certainly. But there is an inherent danger in becoming intellectually and emotionally stunted. And I think Smith is a commentary on that, at least from my point of view. And what we have with Smith is a cautionary tale. While you should seek knowledge, seek to better yourself mentally and intellectually, you should never lose the capacity to feel. You should never lose that most inherent aspect, that most important aspect of human nature. And that is the ability to empathize, to feel, and to emote beyond just the simple, baser emotions of human nature. Because Smith is nothing more than rage and resentment and anger, whereas Neo is the polar opposite of that. The Oracle says as much in her conversation with Neo. She says he is your opposite, your negative. You are everything that he isn't, and he is everything that you should not be. Now, granted, I'm paraphrasing here. I'm putting my own spin on this, but the gist is pretty much the same. And that is true of us as well. We should not become as single-minded and have such a narrow vision as Agent Smith should, because it gains us nothing. And that's one of the things I love about these films, as I've stated before, with all of the Matrix films. It gives us the opportunity to have these types of discussions. Yes, we can discuss the special effects, and we can discuss the action sequences and the fights and the fight choreography and the gunplay and all this stuff. And that's cool. I would lie to you all if I didn't say it wasn't cool. It is. But for me, The Matrix is more than that. It is much deeper and richer than that. And now they use all the things I just listed to draw the audience in. Hi, I'm a member of that audience. But what I have enjoyed so much about doing these streams, these discussions about the Matrix films and the Animatrix, is to have these conversations that delve much deeper into human nature, that deal with metaphysics and philosophy and, well, theology even to varying degrees. And the thing I will say about the Matrix franchise, it is very distinct. We never got anything like this before in the last several years. I mean, we had a few films that dealt with something similar to this in the instance of the 13th Floor with Jennifer Connelly and with Dark World with Rufus Sewell, which both those movies came out around the same time as The Matrix. Actually, I might do so. I might do a review of Dark World at some point. So, and Darth Aster, Darth, it is good to see you. Been a little while. Appreciate you popping by. I'm talking about I am talking about Revelations. I have discussed Resurrections a little bit. So, but no, it's Revelations. I'm discussing Matrix Revelations this afternoon. I have touched on a few things that are event that have that were pertinent to the discussion in terms of the trailer for Matrix Resurrections. So, but honestly, as I said, I have been a longtime fan of this franchise, and I am going into Resurrections with a very open mind because I trust the people that created this world. I trust the Wachowskis, regardless of what they identify themselves as I've said before. To me, I don't care what gender you identify yourself as. All I care about is what's up here, what's in your head, what inspires you to be creative, and what you use that intellect to create. Darth Aster, Matrix Revelations is a film. I don't know where you're getting that, but Revelations is a film. That's the title of the movie. So, but honestly, I have I have a lot of hope that this film will be good because the Wachowskis are involved, and I will bring you all my honest and unbiased review when I go see it next month. So, um, so anyway, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. But I do want to thank you all who tuned in this afternoon. And of course, if you catch us on the replay, make sure you leave your comments down below with your thoughts on uh, The Matrix Revelations. And do want to let you all know I'll be back later this coming week with the Council of Ones. We'll be continuing our review of Babylon 5, Season 4, with the episode Between the Darkness and the Light. And I'm starting to plan out my content for December, and gonna be bringing a lot of good streams, I hope, and more opportunity to have conversations with you all about this thing, pop culture that we all love and that we all have an appreciation for. So, but anyways, folks, thank you all for tuning in today. I'll see you later this week, and if I don't see you between now and then, have a very blessed and a very peaceful and a very restful Thanksgiving. And before I do sign out, I just want to say what am I thankful for this year? I am thankful for my family and for my friends. I am thankful for my ambassadorial family, which includes all of you. I am thankful for the opportunity to join you each and every time I go live and have these discussions about these films and these TV series that we all love. And I'm also thankful for the health of my wife and my mother. And I just want to say I'm also thankful for all of your support because I could not have gotten through this year without all of you. Because you are just as much a part of this community as me. Because here we are all united in fandom. Here we are all equal. Here we are all ambassadors. And to quote a very wise man, we have always been here. See y'all next time.
I have always been